Ok, donc j'ai pas sorti de vidéo depuis très longtemps. Du coup, je vais juste réagir à Game Theory pour Playtime. Voilà, ils ont sorti théorie sur Playtime, du coup, je vais la regarder.
I have solved the ending of Poppy Playtime. Chapter 4 may have only been released a few weeks ago, but hidden beneath its gruesome and glitchy surface are a few small details that not only tell us where Chapter 5 is heading, but how this entire franchise is going to end. Spoiler alert, this ending is not a happy one. Hello,
Ah bah, je m'en doute.
Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that molds to whatever new lore Poppy throws at us. And there is a lot of that going on in Chapter 4. Mob clearly saw the success of Chapter 3 and said, let's do that again, but more. We've got more characters, more collectibles, and the most important thing, more game-breaking bugs.
I should open with my P-coin.
Open!
I'm wealthy, let me in!
Après, je pense que c'est... Après, je pense surtout que c'est parce qu'il y a eu beaucoup de soucis durant le développement. Du coup, ça doit être pour ça qu'il y a eu autant de bugs.
Mob Game said, that's a bug if you have your hands full of P-coins. Sorry, sad face.
I found the P-coin bug!
But while the gameplay may be broken, how is the game lore doing? This is the fourth installment after all, and that's a...
En lore, c'est plutôt bien. Lore, il est plutôt bien, mais... Enfin, le lore, il est bien, le personnage sont bien, mais... Il y a des persos qui auraient pu être incroyables, mais ils ont été gaspillés, quoi. Genre, Docteur. Il a la mort la plus décevante, je crois.
About the time where the indie horror lore can get a bit wonky, shall we say. Well, I'm happy to report that it seems like Mob is learning from our FNAF frustrations, because this chapter is full of something we theorists crave.
J'ai toujours dit ça, j'ai toujours dit que Poppy, c'était FNAF, il y avait qu'un bon lore.
Clarifying details. Things like...
C'est faux, hein, mais ils se ressemblent beaucoup quand même.
What is Poppy's true identity? Well, it's now confirmed that she is in fact Elliot Ludwig's daughter.
I wish you were here, Dad. When you were running this place, you always knew what to say.
Is Ollie really the prototype? That answer is now a resounding yes.
What did you do with Ollie?
I'm right here, Poppy. For you. I'll always be here.
We called both of those...
La fin était très bien faite d'ailleurs, très bien faite.
by the way, but truly this chapter is stacked with answers to questions that we've had for a long time. So much so that this video is going to be the first in what I anticipate will be a 3-part series exploring all of them to figure out what's coming down the Poppy pipeline.
Oh, il va refaire, enfin c'est pas lui qui a fait, mais il va faire une Playtime, Ultimate Timeline, comme Matt avait fait avec FNAF.
So if you don't want
S'il fait ça...
to miss all of that, you'd better smash that subscribe button faster than Doey could smash up Pianosaurus. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm still mad about that. Such wasted potential. But to
Voilà, c'est ça, je voulais parler de ça.
kick things off,
Le potentiel est gaspillé. Mais Pianosaurus, lui, ça me dérange pas, moi surtout le docteur.
I wanted to focus on one of the biggest questions you can ask about a franchise like this. How is it going to end? We've seen it with other franchises, how they just go on and on and on and on. So it can seem like an impossible task. But thanks to a few very specific, potentially offhanded details, I believe Mob has accidentally given the entire game away. I've spent 2 weeks falling down a rabbit hole that is deeper than Playtime code could ever be. And that in itself is a theory for another day. But once I finally landed at the bottom, I realized that we can not only figure out how exactly Chapter 5 is going to end, we can also learn what's going to happen beyond that, regardless of whether Chapter 5 is going to be the final chapter or not. So grab your
Ça m'intéresse.
Omni-hands theory.
Dis-moi que ce sera pas un truc... que ce sera pas un truc totalement n'importe quoi. S'il te plaît.
Because I'm going to show you things that Mob never intended for you to see. If you haven't had a chance to play the latest chapter, here's a quick recap so that we're all on the same page. prototype, and the orphans dwell. Like I've said, there's a lot going on in this chapter, hence multiple videos. But today's mysteries start in the place we visit the most during our playthrough, Safe Haven. According to a note, this place was designed with blast doors and its own electrical generator in order to keep the Playtime Co security staff safe should an experiment get out of hand, which I think we can all imagine happened quite a lot. All of that has made Safe Haven the perfect spot to hide out from those same monstrous experiments like Yarnaby, Pianosaurus, the Doctor, and the Prototype, alongside our new allies. Now, we all knew we were getting an ally or two in this new chapter. Mob made that very clear on the game's Steam page, and once the Doughy trailer came out, it felt pretty clear who that was going to be. Little did we and once the Doughy
Je me souviens quand je l'ai vu pour la première fois, Doé.
Trailer came out, it felt pretty clear who that was going to
Je me suis dit, what is that?
be. Little did we know the full amount we actually have waiting for us here in Safe Haven. Yes, we have Doughy, Poppy, and Kissy, but this place is full of toys, and none of them are trying to eat my face, which is a nice change of pace, but it did raise a few questions for
Malheureusement, ils meurent tous à la fin. Pour une fois, on tombe sur des jouets qui ne veulent pas nous buter et à la fin, ils crèvent tous.
me. Up until chapter 4, the only toys we'd seen firsthand were either dead or were looking to make us dead. Even Kissy wanted to snack on us until Poppy stopped her in chapter 3. I mean, I know I look like a snack, but this is not the time. In fact, Poppy is the only one we've known who wasn't trying. Kissy wanted to snack on us until Poppy stopped her in chapter 3.
Oui, parce qu'elle était nerveuse. Poppy, elle dit littéralement que le pliqueur le rendait nerveuse.
I mean, I know I look like a snack, but this is not the time. In fact, Poppy is the only one we've known who wasn't trying to do that. That was part of what made her unique. She was the only experiment to act like a human with no aggressive tendency.
Doé, il y a Doé, il y a... Enfin, il y a le docteur, mais... Il y a le docteur, je sais qu'il est méchant, mais lui techniquement... Il est méchant parce qu'il veut l'être. Et à part ça, il est comme un humain. Il y a le docteur, il y a Doé, il y a le docteur, il y a Doé, il y a le médecin du refuge, il y a tous. Enfin non, il n'y a pas tous, mais il n'y a pas que Poppy qui est comme une
At least not towards us. But now, we're being shown that she wasn't the only one. Right at
Voilà.
the start of the chapter, we can find journal entries
Il allait le dire.
amongst the pile of dead toys for a child called Riley. They're a sweet kid who lost their parents and so ended up at Playcare. After some time, they were, quote, chosen by Playtime, which they thought meant getting adopted, but oh no, they won the grand old prize of becoming a living toy. What's interesting though, is we get to see entries from after their conversion. Riley struggles to write at first, however, they do
Je me demande toujours comment elle a fait pour écrire.
eventually figure it out, and with that we can see that they are fully aware, fully themselves, and not an aggressive monster. Later on we can find a VHS tape from two guards talking about their various duties.
You know what we get in the East? Toys banging on the walls, crying for their parents. Know what we get in the North? Things. Whatever they aren't people anymore.
The East is lower security, full of toys that are crying for their parents. They are aware of who they are and have memories from their life before, while the North is for the dangerous monsters, the bigger bodies that we faced throughout these chapters. Reports on Pianosaurus and Yarnaby both talk about their lack of cognitive function and animalistic tendencies, so it would make sense that they need to be in a higher security area. But then, what
Je pose surtout parler des Nightmare Critters Call, mais bon.
is the difference between them and some of these other, less monstrous experiments?
Eux, ces expériences ratées, eux, ces expériences réussies.
Simple. Time. As time went on, things did somewhat improve. Huggy is a monster, but can at least listen to orders. Kissy is also a monster. She's only not eating us because, like Huggy, she's following orders. Catnap is kinda...
Non. Elle est
She's
pas un
only
monstre.
not
Elle
eating
peut
us because, like Huggy,
réfléchir.
she's following...
Elle peut réfléchir, mais
orders. Catnap is kinda able to communicate. Mummy is fully functioning, albeit with a bit of a temper towards adults. As time went on, the experiments improved. By the time we get to chapter 4, there are a bunch of toys, including Doey, experiment 1322. All of them are starving, and yet they do not look at us as if we are going to be their next meal. It seems like Playtime Co. did figure out a way to keep the orphans' humanity, as well as figuring out how
Ce espèce de dessin pour Harley Sawyer me rappelle beaucoup Félix Kraken. Voilà. Très ressemblant. Enfin, je sais pas vous, moi je trouve très ressemblant.
to make them fit into much smaller bodies like Poppy. Something which Harley mentioned during the ARG was a challenging task, leading to Boxy Boo and the larger, bigger bodies in the first place. However, there is one small hole in this line of thinking. If these later and smaller experiments are supposed to be more human-like, why then have we had a bunch of mini Huggies, smiling critters, and nightmare critters, smaller experiments that are implied to have been later in the process, acting like rabid monsters?
Parce qu'ils ont été affamés par le prototype. Et voilà.
Was Harley just really bad at his job, failing to keep all these children's brains intact? I don't think so. Was it because while they were doing the experiments they weren't listening to the chillest beats on the internet? It's entirely possible. While Barbie exists in this universe, I'm not sure whether the soothing tones of our lo-fi channel Lo-Fi do. If they did, I'm sure these guys would be way calmer, able to enjoy all the new music that dropped Spotify and a girl named
Sponsor.
Law starts with missing kids.
Yeah.
Acting like he's head over to wherever you stream your music while you work on more law. Why these new toys are still rabid. Although I am convinced that Harley definitely has something to do with why they're acting like this. I'm sure that while I've been showing clips of Safe Haven, you guys have noticed the wall art all around the place. I mean, it's pretty hard not to, right? The devs were really trying to make sure we noticed it, and so I did my theorist duty and gave it a closer look. Really trying all around the place. I mean, it's pretty hard not to, right? The devs were really trying to make sure we noticed it, and so I did my theorist duty and gave it a closer look. A lot of it has the kind of messages we might expect to find. Help us, we will be saved, and a massive mural of Catnap putting...
Très stylé d'ailleurs ce dessin. Avec les mini smiley critters qui sont gentils, le bras du prototype en haut et Bigger Bodies 4 là pour sortir la fumée rouge, très stylé.
The orphans to sleep.
Seulement il y avait un t-shirt inspiré par ça. Attends. Le prototype, il y a un truc, je vais remarquer un truc. Le prototype il est en train de prendre un smiley critters orange. Et Dogday, vu que quand il Poppy, il devait être dans le refuge. Ça représenterait Dogday, ça? Ouais.
But the thing that
Je crois.
caught my eye the most was this little side room known in the game files as the memorial room. Inside, we see a bunch of poppies and candles around the place, paying respects to those they've lost, which, according to some of the writing, is around 40 toys, 40 children. And the walls in this room are also painted with murals, and those actually give us more insight into this story of death. There are two sides of the drawing. On the left, we have characters highlighted in blue. Some alive, including Kissy Missy, but others are dead. On the other side, we have characters including Boxy Boo and Pianosaurus highlighted in red. These two colors, along with the inclusion of the bigger bodies we know and recognize, is showing us two opposing sides within these toy factions. Blue is the side of good, the side of Safe Haven, while red is the side of evil, the side of the Doctor, and thanks to a special VHS tape, the side of our favorite villain, the Prototype.
You know I'm still your best shot at cracking that secret. A sound observation.
Yes,
You have made yourself useful.
There is a literal war going on between these two factions, and the good, non-rabid toys are losing. But there is one more side in all of this, one that they believe is going to even the odds and help them win. The one character they've highlighted in white, surrounded by phrases like, "We need you, Poppy."
Poppy. Ah ouais.
We've talked in previous theories about the amount of religious symbolism in Poppy Playtime, with Catnap's worshipping of the prototype, and the Doctor's poem in the ARG reflecting Psalm 23. And this is a
Et je sais pas si je suis le seul qui voit pas de trucs religieux, je sais pas. Et je vois plein de gens parler de symbolisme religieux de Poppy, moi je vois rien. Pour moi, c'est juste des
another
références.
example of that. While red and blue are typically ways of showing opposing sides, white represents something pure, something holy. Like Poppy was supposed to be the savior to these toys. She was the perfect toy, the daughter of Elliot Ludwig. Surely she could do something to help them, but she didn't. She ran away. And because of that, we see those murals of Poppy crossed out. Outside the memorial room is another drawing of Poppy crossed out with questions like, "Where are you?" But the biggest thing we see are the words, "She left us." If you go and listen to the toys around Safe Haven, many of them talk about whether they should trust Poppy. Why would this time be different?
Can we really trust her this time?
Poppy has left them all with a feeling of betrayal and hurt. This is where the Doctor comes back in.
Je veux dire, c'est pas Poppy qui les a laissés, c'est le prototype qu'il a emprisonné dans la boîte.
Into the picture. There's a note
C'est juste qu'ils ne le savent pas.
you can find called the propaganda flyer, and it reads as follows, quote, "Poppy leads you to the grave. You fight not to survive, but to die. See where this has gotten you. It's not too late to change your mind. Join us, and we will spare your lives. You have 24 hours. We will not make this offer again." This sentiment about Poppy being trouble we saw shared by Harley Sawyer during the Chapter 4 ARG. In one of the many email exchanges, he claimed that her path leads to ruin. Plus, this new note is located just outside the Doctor's territory, which makes it seem like this is coming directly from him. He is seeing the weakness in the group left behind by Poppy, and so he is trying to exploit that weakness. This is why I believe we're seeing so many of these smaller, newer toys appear rabid. They were starving, losing the fight. Their savior had left them, and so they were in need of a new one. Prototype was willing to step in and fill those tiny doll-sized shoes. He gave them a clear option: turn their back on Safe Haven, give in to their base instincts, and lose whatever humanity they had left. Just like how Kissy stopped trying to eat us because Poppy told her not to, these toys are now trying to eat us because the prototype told them they could. Eating their fellow toys and other human remains may seem gross at first, but when it's that, or dying of starvation, or worse, the choice is sadly pretty obvious. And then, if they held out for long enough, maybe, just maybe, the prototype would save them.
Katana passe un bon exemple. Katana plus il vénère un prototype comme son dieu. C'est pas un bon exemple. C'est pas un bon exemple pour présenter les autres smiley critters du refuge.
Honestly, I kinda don't blame the toys for making that choice. I've always been suspicious of Poppy, as long-time viewers of the channel will know at this point. And right at the end of the chapter, she proved me right. She ran away again when things got tough, leaving us to die.
Tu voulais qu'elle fasse quoi, mec? Tu voulais qu'elle fasse quoi? C'est une poupée contre un monstre géant. Je comprends pas. Tu voulais qu'elle fasse quoi?
She may not have run to help the prototype like I predicted, at least not yet, but she's definitely hiding something.
Ah, je comprends pas. Je comprends pas. C'est juste... Il cache quoi? C'est une poupée triste.
How much do you know?
When your supposed
En plus, ils étaient en train d'avoir une crise de goisse.
savior acts like that, of course the opposing deity becomes quite appealing. And the prototype does
Je préfère ajouter que les jouets, que les mini-smiley critters du refuge n'ont toujours pas rejoint le prototype. Les mini-smiley critters du Playcare, eux, ils peuvent toujours avoir toujours été aux côtés du prototype. Donc, ne dit pas qu'ils ont rejoint, il dit qu'ils ont essayé de combattre son influence.
actually follow through on their threat, blowing up Safe Haven at the end of the chapter, killing anyone left that opposed him. But that doesn't mean that those who switched sides are safe either. This chapter also makes it abundantly clear that he is as much of a liar as Poppy is.
I thought we were gonna leave.
Non, non. Poppy, il cache quelques infos. Le prototype, lui, il manipule tout le monde et il soucie que du pouvoir. Ils sont pas du tout pareils.
Prototype says we can't leave. Not now, not ever.
Just like we saw in the CG5 song from Chapter 3, the prototype promised freedom to these toys. That's what they thought the Hour of Joy was, but it wasn't. He was just lying to achieve his own goals. Him getting the toys to leave Safe Haven and join his side, it's the exact same thing. And he'll betray them just like he betrayed Poppy, which I guess means it's up to us to step in, be the savior that neither Poppy nor the prototype could be. We will save the orphans that the prototype has tracked down here, and maybe we'll even be able to save some of the toys who changed sides out of desperation.
Ah, je pense pas. Je vois pas le moyen de sauver les jouets, mec. Ils sont des jouets. Si jamais ces chambres de lucide vont se faire attraper par le gouvernement et l'expérience va recommencer, si jamais le reste ils vont mourir de faim, il n'y a pas de moyen de les sauver.
Is what I would say if the game hadn't already telegraphed exactly what's going to happen next. See, as I was thinking through this whole Civil War storyline, I went back through some of the dialogue in the game and I came across this line from Harley before his boss fight.
Do you hear it? I do. A bell. For whom does it ring?
This isn't the first time Harley has spoken like this. He's always been a fan of speaking poetic in a greater-than-thou dramatic sort of way. But this time, it's different. It's not just a poetic styled phrase. It's an actual piece of poetry. The phrase "for whom the bell tolls" comes from the poem "No Man is an Island," published in 1620.
Ah, no man is an island. No man's land. Ah.
24. It's about how all of humankind
Je sais très bien que No Man's Land c'est une référence à la guerre au cas où.
is connected. That the loss of one life doesn't just affect that one person. It affects all of us because we are connected. If one dies, a part of us dies too. So when we hear the bell of death sound, it's pointless to ask who it's for because at the end of the day, it's for us. This feels fitting given it comes just before our big boss fight with the Doctor, who says he hears the bell and asks who it's ringing for, knowing full well that we are about to put an end to him, but that we should maybe reconsider because his death would be a loss for the whole of mankind. His scientific endeavors,
Je pense surtout que sa mort est une perte pour le code du prototype surtout.
his discoveries will now be lost. However, while this poem is one of the first places the phrase "for whom the bell tolls" was used, it isn't the only time, nor is it the most famous. That honor goes to the book of the same name by Deadpool. Is that you? Oh, no, it's just Ernest Hemingway. My bad. Anyway, this book is about a guy from America called Robert. He goes to Spain to fight in the Spanish Civil War being fought by the Republicans and the Nationalists. He sides with the Republicans, who currently are losing the fight, and so joins them in the mountains where they're hiding away. His main companion throughout this story is a woman who has lost her parents and was, taken advantage of by the opposing side. The Republicans plan to turn the tides of this battle, blow up a bridge. But there's deception from within their own ranks, and because of that, they lose some of the bombs and their way of detonating them. Now, where have I heard this before? Oh, right. It's literally the game we're playing. Our player character is an outsider to this toy war. We side with Dowie and Poppy, who are losing the battle and hiding out in Safe Haven away from the Doctor and his forces. Our main companion, Poppy, has lost her dad and was lied to and tortured by the prototype, the leader of the opposing side. Ollie was supposed to be our friend, but it turned out to be the prototype lying to us, and so we ended up losing the bombs and not igniting the gas as we planned. But let me tell you,
C'est possible qu'il y ait une inspiration, c'est possible.
theorists, when I first read this, my mouth was almost as agape as a smiling critter. chapter. These stories are practically one-to-one, minus one crucial detail, the ending. We are yet to see the ending of Poppy Playtime, and as we end the chapter heading into the prototype's lair, the labs, it seems like that ending is coming up pretty soon. But For Whom the Bell Tolls does have an ending, and given how closely aligned everything else has been so far, I have a feeling that means Poppy is going to end in a similar way. In the book, Robert decides to go on the final assault of the bridge as planned, just with some minor alterations. Because they lost their main means of detonating the bombs, he's going to have to be right up close in order to set them off. He does manage to do so, but shrapnel hits his comrades, he gets fired upon by the enemy, and he suffers an injury so great he is unable to retreat with his team. He tries to remain awake as long as he can in the hopes that he can maybe shoot down a couple of enemy soldiers to allow his friends to escape, but he knows that his death is inevitable. The bell now tolls for him. At the start of chapter 4, Poppy told us how the red smoke can be ignited and that the bombs were our way of doing that. However, we've now lost our primary means of detonation. The prototype took the bombs and used them on us instead.
We've taken the liberty of retrieving those explosives from the Foundation. Thanks for collecting those, by the way.
But that doesn't mean we're out of options. In chapter 3, Catnap was spewing the same red gas, and with one shot from our electrified grab pack hand, he too burst into flames. You may be able to see where I'm going with this. Much like in the book, our main character is going to fulfill their promise to Poppy and blow up Playtime Co. using the red smoke. We're just gonna have to be close enough to use our grab pack hand to do it, sacrificing ourselves so that Poppy and the orphans can escape. Only that isn't actually...
Enfin, là, je pense qu'il va dire que c'est pas vraiment ce qui va se passer, mais si jamais ça arrive, on ne sauve pas les orphelins, du coup. Vu que si on fait exploser l'usine, que les orphelins sont toujours là-dedans, on va le tuer.
How the story ends. I mean, it is, the book's ending is purposely left ambiguous, but the story the book is based on, the real-life history, that continues on. I mentioned earlier that this book is based on the Spanish Civil War, which ended in 1939, and if Poppy Playtime is following that history, our heroic sacrifice may be for nothing. Despite the good fight put up by the Republicans, ultimately it was the nationalists that won the war, with the leader of the movement, Francisco Franco, not only surviving the entire war, but going on to lead the country until 1975, 36 years after the war ended. We may put up a good fight. We may even be able to destroy Playtime Co. like Robert destroys the bridge, but I believe that ultimately we'll be shown that Poppy is once again misinformed. The prototype won't be stopped by a simple explosion, and in the end, while we may die and we may save the orphans, the prototype will survive and continue with their plans for this world.
Ah bah, il est quand même, enfin, peut-être qu'il va survivre, mais ça m'étonnerait que le prototype survive à l'explosion de l'usine. Je veux dire, c'est pas une entité interémotionnelle, c'est juste un robot humain très perfectionné, c'est tout.
What are those plans exactly? Well, that's what I plan on exploring in one of our future theories. So again, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it, and in the meantime, friends, remember, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching.
World premiere on...
Du coup, ce que je pose la théorie, je suis vraiment pas d'accord avec le truc de les jouets étaient dans le code Poppy, ensuite ils ont rejoint le prototype. Et pour le truc de face sur, je sais pas, c'est la guerre espagnole, je vois vraiment pas que, enfin, je veux pas avoir la même fin.